What is up, heroes? It's Midnight Zero, and welcome to week 14 of the NCPL. This week we are going up against Ben, coach of the British Bidoofs. And yeah, again, a pretty rushed week, to be honest. Yeah, that's why you're seeing this again. And like I said, I'm probably going to catch up with things and really try and kind of get going again for the playoffs. But regardless, let's hop into Ben's team real quick. He's a buddy of mine. I've been looking forward to playing him since the beginning of the season. That said, like I mentioned last week, I am still kind of tired, a little burnt out myself. I know that Ben hasn't, I actually don't know much about his thought process with regards to the league. He hasn't really shared a lot of it with the league. I know that he's learning, so he's not the greatest player at the moment, and that oftentimes makes him, or other players of that skill level, just in general, a little bit more unpredictable. So that's a little bit of a concern, and he's definitely got some threatening mons on his team. Overall, I don't think the team is that great. That said, never know. So regardless, he's got the team you can see on screen right now. Jirachi, I've used Jirachi before, really enjoyed using it. Super versatile, can be a rocker, great scarf user, great healing wish user. It's got a great move pool, a lot of different options, what's it called, base 100 stats all around. It's got a lot of options. That's kind of what it comes down to. Next up is Gliscor, and Gliscor is a really difficult, just kind of wall to break through, to be honest. I really dislike going up against it. That said, it should be manageable, though it is one of the more threatening ones on his team. Next up is Volcarona. Volcarona is an absolute threat this metagame. This generation, Volcarona with access to, Psychic, Bug Buzz, Fiery Dance, Fire Blast, Hidden Power Ice, or Ground, Giga Drain. It has such great coverage, and Quiver Dance boosting up its defenses as well, or its special defense, as well as boosting its already really high base 135 special attack and its base 100 speed. It's really, really good and can easily, bring back entire, games. So definitely want to be on the lookout for that. Next up is Whimsicott. I hate dealing with Whimsicott. It's such an annoying, pesky Pokemon. You can make it super bulky. It's got really great defensive typing. It's got a great defensive move pool, access to Prankster Leech Seed, Prankster Synthesis, Prankster Taunt, Prankster Encore, Giga Drain, Substitute. It's really just kind of a hassle to deal with, so not really looking forward to playing against it. That said, it is going to be particularly good against my team, in my opinion, so we might end up seeing it. Next up is Zoroark, and Zoroark is his Z-Mon. Honestly, I don't think he's ever put in really the time to figure out how to disguise Zoroark as another Pokemon on his team, so it hasn't been that crazy, although if he does, it could definitely bring in some mind games. Not sure I want to, underplay that, so definitely going to want to watch out. It's got a decent move pool and, decent special attack. Yeah, and it hits a decent speed tier, so definitely a threat. Next up is Mega Aerodactyl, one of the more risky Megas in my opinion, because it relies on a Stab Stone Edge to really do much work and doesn't get boosted by Tough Claws. That said, Aerial Ace, Fire Fang, Earthquake, Aqua Tail, it's definitely got a decent amount of bulk, but it's definitely hitting hard too when it does hit, so definitely a threat to look out for. That said, with all my Steel types, not sure I'll really see it that much. Next up is Electros, and Electros is another Pokemon that's really difficult to deal with, given it's an electric type with Levitate, and it's got a decent move pool, Giga Drain, Flamethrower, Hidden Power, Thunderbolt, Volt Switch, various physical attacks as well, like Knockoff, Thunder Punch, or even Wild Charge, and access to, decent attack and special attack, and, mediocre bulk, but it also gets access to, of course, I think a Violite even. No, or is this the final evolution? Why is it so bulky most of the time then? I don't know. Assault Vest is a typical set that's run with it. It's pretty slow though, and without access to great recovery, it kind of gets worn down pretty easily, despite, very rarely, if ever, taking super effective hits. Next up is Jellicent. Ben has really enjoyed using Jellicent, so definitely going to be on the lookout for this one. It's kind of a pain to deal with. He typically brings Toxic or Will-O-Wisp and Hex with Recover, and Cursed Body or Water Absorb can be pretty annoying. That said, I fully anticipate Water Absorb if he does bring it because of my Suicune. And yeah, that's kind of all there is to it. It's a great defensive wall, so yeah. Next up is Virizion. Virizion is another Pokemon that Ben has liked using throughout this season. It's got, solid attack and special attack, in addition to access to Calm Mind and Swords Dance, Synthesis, Giga Drain, Focus Blast, Leaf Blade, Close Combat. It's got, great offensive typing in my opinion, and it's got a really good niche speed tier. And, it's got decent bulk too, so it can definitely take some hits and deal out a good amount of damage, heal up with Synthesis or heal up with Giga Drain as well. Definitely going to be on the lookout for this mon. Next up is Claydol, and Claydol I think is a little bit of an overhyped Pokemon, shout out to Max. It's a rapid spinner. It can get up rocks, which is pretty cool. It's levitate, which is, you know, a neat immunity. That said, it's so weak that it can't really threaten anything other than with like a toxic per se. Doesn't have access to reliable recovery either, and being weak to so many things from a typing standpoint makes it really difficult to keep around to actually, you know, utilize all the support that it can actually offer. So, not so big on it, but it is still a decent tier D pick. Next up is Credilli. Yes, another grass type. These grass types make, you know, dealing with Suicune a lot easier for him, I'd imagine, especially when two of them are completely immune to water, so it's pretty cool. But Credilli is kind of a pain to deal with. It's got great, you know, bulk all around, great defensive typing. It gets access to Synthesis, Giga Drain, Leech Seed. It's kind of a pain to take down. It can get up rocks. That's kind of all there is to it. Next up is Vanillux, and Vanillux is, you know, decent from an offensive standpoint. If anything, it's worth using as like a Scarf user. Just run Scarf Blizzard, and, you know, take advantage of Stab Blizzard in the Hail, coming off a base 110 special attack. That said, we'll see. My team is pretty weak to Ice, so I wouldn't be too surprised if he brought it, but... Next up is Ariados, and Bibarel. Ariados is really only good for sticky webs and toxic spikes. It's really slow, it's really weak. Enough said. Bibarel, it's got mediocre stats really all around, but what's cool is it can run Swords Dance, and because of Simple, it gets +3 instead of +2, which makes it a bit of a threat when it gets access to, you know, stuff like Quick Attack, Aqua Jet, Waterfall, Return, two decent stabs, and... yeah, that's kind of all there is to it. It can run a curse set as well, but that's his team. Now let's get into my team this week. My team this week, we are bringing, first of all, we've got Thunderous T. Thunderous T was one of the Pokemon I first decided to bring. I will mention that this team was kind of rushed together. I've been super busy this week. I've just been really busy in Japan as is, so I haven't had a ton of time as of late, and... yeah, as I mentioned last week, you know, motivation's a little bit low, but I managed to put this together. You'll notice in the EV spreads, they're not as tailored as they usually are, but regardless, Thunderbolt, Sludge Wave, Hidden Power, Ice, and Agility. Agility is there so that I can count on, you know, outspeeding a lot of his potential Scarf Mons, like Scarf Virizion, Scarf Zoroark, Scarf Vanillux, and... I really wanted to make sure that I'd be able to outspeed his +1 or, you know, Scarfed Mons that are just above the base 100 or 102 speed tier, you know, that niche 108 Virizion, 105 Zoroark. I wanted to make sure that at +2, I'd be outspeeding a Scarf Volcarona even, too, or a Scarf Jirachi, so that's why I have Agility there. It's also there so that if, you know, it's in range, if Volcarona needs to set up in order to kill me, I can Agility, and then, you know, potentially knock it out with a Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt hits a lot on his team really hard, and what it doesn't hit hard, you know, aka Gliscor, I hit super hard with HP Ice. HP Ice also hits a lot of his other Pokemon pretty hard, and Sludge Wave is there pretty much for Whimsicott and to hit a lot of other things neutrally that, you know, wouldn't get hit as hard by Hidden Power Ice. So that's kind of why I have this particular moveset. Volt Absorb is nice for Electros too, and potential Thunder Punches, and... yeah, this is one of my main ways of hitting Jellicent, so I'm definitely going to want to play carefully with it. Leftovers is there because I potentially anticipate taking Iron Heads with this, or switching it in on Jirachi, potentially on U-turns, or Iron Heads, and, you know, after setting up with an Agility, you know, as I want to be able to heal so that I can potentially take a Shadow Sneak from Ariados, or a an Aqua Jet from Bidoof, that sort of thing. Next up, we've got Snacker, our Garchomp. We're running Choice Scarf this week. One of my, you know, team building policies is to run a Scarfmon if they have a really threatening +1 speed Mon. If you have a Mon that is above that speed tier, to at least run its Scarf, so you don't need to set up in order to outspeed, and you extremely reduce the likelihood of getting swept by that particular Mon. So that's why we have Scarf Garchomp this week, because it outspeeds a lot of the base 100s, you know, or all the base 100s, obviously. Volcarona, Jirachi, and those two in particular can be really scary when Scarfed, so, or at +1 speed, whichever it is. Earthquake and Rock Slide are there for those respectively. Outrage, he doesn't have a Steel type, so Outrage does a lot of damage, and if hazards are up, if I phase them around a little bit, Outrage could just straight up sweep late game, which is really cool. Poison Jab is there specifically for Whimsicott. That's really all it's there for. Outrage does more to everything else. And I guess if I don't want to necessarily commit with Outrage early on, that's why that's there. So, yeah, moving on to the next Pokemon, we've got Bronzong. Now, Bronzong this week, I really wanted to bring it Its typing is really good against a lot of his team, and Gyro Ball is really good because of how slow I am and how fast a lot of his mons are. Gyro Ball is doing a lot of damage to a lot of his team, and what it isn't doing a lot of damage to, aka Jirachi, Earthquake is doing a decent amount, and what's not getting hit by Gyro Ball or Earthquake doesn't appreciate a Toxic. And of course, rocks are going to be incredibly important this week, going up against something like Volcarona, so I definitely want to get those up, and if it tries to set up on me, I can of course Toxic it. I have Heat Proof so that I can potentially take Fiery Dances or Fire Blast at +1 or even +2, and that's why I'm also very Spadef. I'm also Spadef so that I can take on Zoroark, not really take it on, but at least get a Dying Gyro Ball off to do a ton of damage, or to get on my rocks and in one last effort, you know, if I don't need Bronzong or anything like that anymore. It's also really helpful for a potential special for Virizion. And yeah, Toxicking things is going to be incredibly helpful this game, so look forward to using Bronzong. Next up, we have Mega Scizor. We're running a physically defensive Mega Scizor. This is primarily there for Jirachi and pretty much his few physical attackers. Potentially Claydol, you know, Mega Aerodactyl. I'm not taking too much from Fire Fangs or Fire Punches anyways. You know, U-Turn is really helpful for momentum, of course, and it does a decent amount of damage to a lot on his team. Bullet Punch also does a lot to particularly Mega Aerodactyl. It does a lot to Whimsicott in particular too. It 2 KOs most things, and what's really cool is at +2, it does like 45% to Volcarona, which is really neat because that prevents him from really setting up on me, because you know, if I'm already at +2 and he brings a Volcarona and tries to set up, I 2 KO him after rocks, or even just a little bit of chip damage before then, so definitely going to be want to try and find opportunities to Swords Dance, and there should be a decent amount of opportunities. There's also, yeah, this helps against any of his physical attackers, and it could help me get momentum to safely bring in my Scarf Chomp or my Thunderous Tea on, I don't know, potential Jirachi, a potential Electros, whatever's going to be running a fire move, and we can kind of scout for that too. So that's why this is here. Next up, we've got Suicune. We're running a little bit of an interesting spread. The defense is there specifically for Gliscor so that we don't take more than 25% from it, unless it's, you know, an offensive nature. What's it called? An offensive nature. I don't know, adamant or neutral, I guess, attack nature, something like that, and with, you know, a little bit of attack EV investment. The Spadef here, though, is so that at +1 I take less than 25% from a timid Volcarona's Giga Drain, and that's relevant because I'm running a Procoon this week. I really wasn't sure about what Suicune said I wanted to bring. I ended up going with this because despite having all three grass types and a Jellicent that has Water Absorb, that can just straight up wall this Suicune, I can actually, you know, pressure stall them out, which is, you know, sucky if I have to do it, but it might come down to it. But also, just looking at the rest of my team, I have Thunderous Tea, I have Toxic on Bronzong, I was considering running Brutal Swing on Scizor, didn't end up doing so, but I also have, like, Outrage on Garchomp, and I have a Tangrowth in the back to help deal with all those mons, so I think at the end of the day, I shouldn't have to rely on pressure stalling with Suicune, so that's what I'm going to end up going with. This also helps out with a lot of his other Pokemon, in particular Jirachi, Gliscor, and Volcarona. Scald is doing a lot of damage to Volcarona. I can Protect Stall it, Sub-Stall it. If I already have a Substitute up or a Boost up, I can stall it out of Giga Drains if it's running Giga Drain. It really has a lot of 4 move slot syndrome this week between Quiver Dance, Fiery Dance, Fire Blast, Bug Buzz, Giga Drain, and a Hidden Power, not really being able to hit, you know, one of my mons regardless, whether it's, you know, Garchomp or Suicune or something like that. So definitely going to want to be on the lookout for that. I can set up on a lot of things, and if I get a substitute up, I don't have to worry about Will-O-Wisps from, Jellicent, and that's how I can proceed to stall it out. At +1, I can, you know, do a decent amount of damage to Virizion, potentially get a burn and that sort of thing, especially if it's physical, then I beat it 1v1. It can put in a lot of work against a lot of his team, so as you might expect, that's why it's there. Lastly, we have a Tangrowth. Now, I was considering a Saltfest, I was considering just straight up physically defensive. In the end, we end up going with a mixed set that has, you know, plus defense nature, but almost max Spadef. And that's just because I don't really need a lot of defense. I really don't. It's so naturally bulky already, just with all the HP, to take on all of his offensive, at least physically offensive threats. But I really wanted to patch my Spadef so that I don't get straight up OHKO'd by stuff like Spec Zoroark. I do get OHKO'd by Volcarona, but I don't want to be, you know, left in the dust by a special Jirachi. I what else could we potentially have that's, you know, special? There's stuff like Electros. There's special Virizion, which is something I plan on bringing this in, and I don't want to, you know, prep for like a physical Virizion and get blown away by a special one. So I wanted a bit of a mixed Tangrowth, and because I'm kind of sacrificing a bit in both defenses, I'm running, you know, leftovers to help out with the recovery, and I'm also running Leech Seed so that I can ease prediction and I can heal up my Tangrowth a little bit better, and I can switch in my, you know, physically defensive Scizor or my Suicune and not worry about, you know, getting worn down as much because I don't have access to recovery like Rest. So yeah, that's kind of the mentality here. Giga Drain is there for, you know, hitting all the obvious mons like Jellicent and potentially Gliscor after a Roost, because, you know, with Giga Drain and with Leech Seed and leftovers, I do beat it 1v1 because every time he roosts, I'm doing about 40%, you know, take into account for Leech Seed damage, and it's not going to be able to, he's not going to be able to, you know, really set up too much on me. So that's that. Sludge Bomb is there for Virizion and Whimsicott, and potentially even Credilli, though I plan on using Bronzong or Scizor for Credilli rather than Tangrowth. And like I said, Rock Slide is there for Volcarona, and that's pretty much it. So that's the team. It's kind of thrown together. Honestly, I think there are some gaps. Some mons like Credilli could potentially be pretty threatening. I really need to, as always, analyze what he has at first and see which of my Pokemon are necessary to bring down those specific Pokemon, and see which Pokemon are pressured more so than others, and really play around keeping those Pokemon alive, because he does have some mons that, if unchecked, can definitely just, you know, 1v1 or 1v6 entire teams. So definitely going to want to be on the lookout. I am looking forward to this match. I'm feeling a little bit better than I did last week. So thank you guys for your support in the last video. And yeah, that's all I can say. I hope you guys are looking forward to the match. We are so close to the playoffs. We have clinched a playoff bye. So I'll talk about that again next week. But that's pretty exciting. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the battle. But until then, this is Moon Knight Zero. And this mission is complete.